She smiled. That's the part nobody's talking about. Not the chair shot. Not the referee scrambling across the canvas. Not even the crowd losing their absolute minds in that arena. No, what told the whole story, what revealed everything you needed to know about Kiana James in that single, crystalline moment, was the smile. Slow, deliberate, satisfied. Like she had been planning this for months, and tonight was simply payday. Welcome back to Wrestling Impact. I'm your host, and if you are not buckled in right now, I need you to stop everything, find the nearest seat, because what went down on SmackDown this past week is the kind of moment that legends are made of and careers are ended. Kiana James just detonated a bomb in the middle of the WWE Women's Division, and the shockwaves are still traveling. We are breaking down every single second of the most jaw-dropping betrayal SmackDown has seen in years. The night Kiana James stabbed Giulia in the back and walked away with the United States Championship draped over her shoulder like she owned the whole world. Let's go back. Let's set the scene properly, because context is everything in professional wrestling, and if you want to understand what happened, you need to understand how we got here. Kiana James and Giulia were not supposed to be an alliance that made sense on paper. Think about it. Kiana, the calculated, business-minded, ice-cold opportunist from Las Vegas who treats every situation like a financial transaction. And then there's Giulia, the ferocious, technically brilliant, emotionally electric performer who came over from Japan carrying a reputation that preceded her like thunder before a storm. These two women operate on completely different frequencies. But in professional wrestling, sometimes the most dangerous alliances are the ones built not on friendship, but on mutual benefit. And for a stretch of weeks leading into this SmackDown, that mutual benefit was very, very real. Giulia needed backup. She had been navigating the shark-infested waters of the SmackDown Women's Division while simultaneously setting her sights on championship gold, and Kiana James appeared to be the perfectly structured, perfectly composed partner for the journey. Kiana, on the other hand, was brilliant enough to know that riding the wave of Giulia's momentum was the fastest elevator to the top of this company. So they aligned. They shook hands, metaphorically speaking, and the WWE Universe watched with cautious optimism and maybe just a little bit of nervous energy, because deep down, everybody who has ever watched a second of professional wrestling knows that when Kiana James is involved in a partnership, check your pockets. But weeks passed. They worked together. They had each other's backs. Kiana interfered when she needed to. Giulia delivered for the team when the pressure was highest. And slowly, dangerously slowly, people started believing. Fans started making fan edits. Comment sections filled up with "Actually, this alliance goes hard." Wrestling Twitter, chaotic, never satisfied, always ready to be proven wrong, was cautiously buying in. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly when Kiana James made her move. Because Kiana James does not destroy you when you're suspicious of her. She destroys you the moment you trust her. That's the whole art form. Now SmackDown. The night in question. The arena is electric from the moment the show opens. You can feel something in the air, that special intangible energy that only certain episodes of SmackDown carry. The kind of night where the crowd is louder than usual in the opening segment, where the commentary team has that extra spark in their voices, where even the production feels tighter, crisper. Something big was coming and the building knew it even if it couldn't name it yet. The United States Championship match had been building for weeks. Giulia had earned her shot through sheer dominance, through matches that left her opponents not just beaten, but philosophically defeated. This woman wrestles with a fury that is almost personal, like every single opponent reminds her of every obstacle she's ever had to overcome. And the championship opportunity felt earned, felt deserved, felt inevitable. Kiana James came out alongside her, suited up in that perfectly coordinated ring gear, portfolio nowhere in sight tonight, which, honestly, should have been the first red flag. When Kiana James doesn't bring the portfolio, she's not here to do business the normal way. She's here to do business her way. The match itself? Incredible. Give credit where credit is absolutely due. Giulia performed like a woman possessed. From the opening bell, she was aggressive, precise, and relentless. Every strike carried weight. Every submission attempt was executed with the kind of technical perfection that makes you understand why the wrestling world went absolutely crazy when she arrived in WWE. The crowd was fully invested, on their feet for the big moments, gasping at the near falls, buying into every 2 count like it might be the one. And then midway through the match something shifted. You could see it in Kiana's body language before anything happened. She was standing at ringside, and instead of watching Giulia the way a partner watches their ally with investment, with tension, she was watching with something else entirely. Detachment. Calculation. the look of someone doing math in their head. Giulia hit a beautiful sequence, a series of strikes followed by her signature move that had the crowd erupting, and she went for the cover. 1, 2. The champion kicked out at 2.5, and the arena groaned. But Giulia popped right back up, fired up, feeding off the crowd's energy, pointing to the corner. She was going up top. She was going for it. The crowd rose to their feet as one. And that's when Kiana James grabbed her ankle. Dead silence for half a second. Not the dramatic silence of a scripted pause, the genuine, confused, horrified silence of 12,000 people who could not immediately process what they just witnessed. Had they seen that correctly? Did Kiana James just? Yes, she did. Giulia looked down from the second rope, eyes wide, and the expression on her face was not anger, not yet. It was pure, devastating confusion. The kind of look that says, this cannot be real, this is not happening, not you. And Kiana James stared right back up at her with those cold, calm eyes and removed her hand from Giulia's ankle like she was withdrawing a chess piece she'd been holding for months. Deliberate. Final. The champion recovered and hit a counter that sent Giulia crashing hard to the mat, and the arena was still buzzing with stunned disbelief when Kiana James slid into the ring and hit Giulia with a move so clean, so devastating, so officially brutal that it wasn't just an attack. It was a statement. It was punctuation at the end of a very long sentence she had been writing in secret. The referee, completely blindsided, called for the bell. Disqualification. Match thrown out. And in the chaos and the beautiful, orchestrated chaos that only someone like Kiana James could manufacture, she found the championship. She picked it up off the mat where it had been set aside for the match, and she held it up, not with two hands raised in celebration, but with one arm, extended straight out, the title hanging from her grip like a business acquisition she'd just finalized. And then the smile. That smile. Slow, deliberate, satisfied. The crowd had now fully processed what happened, and the reaction was volcanic, a storm of boos raining down from every corner of that arena, and Kiana James absorbed every single decibel like it was applause. Because here's the thing about truly great heels: the ones who understand this business on a cellular level, they don't flee from crowd reaction. They bathe in it. They have waited their entire career for a reaction that size, that passionate, that loud. You don't get booed like that unless you've done something that matters. Meanwhile, Giulia was on her knees in the center of the ring, and the camera caught her face in a close-up that is going to live rent-free in your brain for a long time. Because it wasn't tears. It wasn't screaming. It was something quieter and more dangerous, the expression of a woman filing every single detail away. The angle of the lights. The sound of the crowd. The memory of that smile. All of it catalogued, stored, and saved for later. Giulia's face in that moment said one thing very clearly: this is not over. This is just the beginning. Now let's talk about the brilliance of what Kiana James just did from a pure strategic standpoint, because this woman deserves her flowers even as we despise the method. Kiana didn't just betray an ally, she executed a betrayal at the exact right moment to maximize her leverage. She waited until Giulia was closest to the title. She waited until the investment was highest from Giulia, from the fans, from the narrative itself. A betrayal in week one of an alliance means nothing. A betrayal in the championship match? That means everything. That plants a flag. That says, I was always the most important person in this story. And now, with the United States Championship central to this feud, every future SmackDown becomes a chapter in a story that the entire division has to navigate around. Think about what this means for the women's division moving forward. Giulia now has the most personal, most explosive motivation possible. She wasn't just beaten, she was used, discarded, embarrassed on the biggest stage available at that moment. There is no faster way to make a fire burn hotter than to do something like this to someone like Giulia, a woman whose entire professional identity is built around resilience, ferocity, and the absolute refusal to stay down. And Kiana James, once a supporting character in other people's stories, is now the architect of the most compelling storyline on SmackDown. She forced herself to the center of this narrative through pure audacity. No title reign is handed to you. Sometimes you have to reach out and take it by the throat. I want to talk about the fan reactions for a second, because they have been absolutely unhinged, and I mean that in the best possible way. Social media after SmackDown went off the air was something to behold. The wrestling community, which is never in agreement about anything, found rare consensus. This was a moment. This was capital M, capital I, capital T, capital H moment. Trending topics. Video clips spreading everywhere. People who casually watch SmackDown texting their wrestling-obsessed friends at midnight asking, "Did you see what Kiana James did?" That is the reach of a truly impactful storyline moment. It escapes the bubble of the dedicated fan base and bleeds into the general public. Longtime fans were making comparisons to some of the greatest betrayal moments in WWE history, not because of spectacle or production value, but because of emotional authenticity. Kiana James sold that betrayal before she executed it, during it, and after it with a consistency that elevates everything around her. She made you believe in the alliance just enough. She made the timing feel shocking even though some part of you always suspected it was coming. That is incredibly difficult to do, and she did it perfectly. And can we give Giulia her credit as well? Because the receiving end of a betrayal is just as demanding a performance as the betrayal itself, if not more. Your job is to make the audience feel the wound. To make them furious on your behalf. To make them want to see justice served so badly that they'll tune in every single week until it happens. Giulia did exactly that with one close-up shot. No screaming, no overselling, just that quiet, devastating, promise of revenge face that had the entire WWE universe leaning forward in their seats. Where does this go from here? That is the question that has consumed the wrestling world since SmackDown went off the air. And while we will never confirm what we don't know for certain, what we can say with absolute confidence is that this story has legs. Long legs. Championship implications, personal betrayal, two women who are among the most compelling performers in the entire company. This writes itself for weeks, potentially months, of appointment television. Every SmackDown going forward carries weight now. Every time Kiana James appears on camera with that championship, the crowd will explode with a reaction that fuels everything. And every time Giulia comes through that curtain, and she will, with that fire burning even hotter than before, the roof is going to come off whatever building they're in. This is the kind of rivalry that defines eras. This is the kind of story that people reference years later when they explain why they love professional wrestling. Because at its absolute best, at its most brilliant and emotionally resonant, professional wrestling tells human stories. Stories about ambition and betrayal. About trust and the devastating cost of misplacing it. About the burning, unstoppable drive to reclaim what was taken from you. Kiana James and Giulia are now telling one of those stories, and we have a front row seat. And that, right there, is why this matters beyond the championship, beyond the angle, beyond the SmackDown ratings. This moment, Kiana's smile, Giulia's eyes, the crowd's volcanic reaction reminds us all why we fell in love with this sport in the first place. It made us feel something. It made an entire arena fall absolutely silent for 2 seconds and then erupt into something primal and passionate and pure. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens when the right performers execute the right story at the right moment, and everything connects. So we wait, we watch, and we stay tuned, because this story is nowhere near its final chapter. If this breakdown had you as locked in as I was making it, do me a favor right now, hit that like button. Not for me, but because Giulia deserves an army behind her going into this, and every like is one more soldier. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know, did you see this Kiana James betrayal coming? Or did she get you completely? Because she got me. I'll admit it freely. She got me. And I respect it as much as I hate it. Subscribe to Wrestling Impact if you are not already part of this family, because we cover every moment, every betrayal, every championship match with the passion and detail that this sport demands. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a breakdown when these moments hit, because in professional wrestling, the next Kiana James moment is always just one SmackDown away. Stay locked in. Stay passionate, and never, ever trust someone who stops carrying their portfolio.